Good afternoon and welcome to another episode of Not Minding My Own Business. I am here today with Gordon May from Concern. Gordon, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Wonderful. So I was just saying before we got on that I've heard so many wonderful things about Concern. I know you guys do a lot to support the community. Why don't we start off by having you just talk a little bit about what Concern is and what you guys do?
Concern's a human service agency. We provide services, behavioral health, adoption, foster care. We have a residential facility, community-based services, outpatient mental health, psychiatry, psychologists, therapists. So yeah, those are the services. We really run the gamut of various services in the field.
Wow. So that is definitely a lot of things to cover.
Yeah.
All very needed services.
Yes.
But why don't we start a little bit with the adoption process? What can you talk a little bit about what you guys do in the adoption and the foster care arenas?
Yeah, so that's actually, it's funny you asked that first, because one of the most exciting things I get to do is finalize our adoption paperwork. So when I sign, when adoption's finalized, I get to sign the paperwork, comes across my desk, and I know we've had an adopted family and a kid found a home. So that's pretty amazing. It's a long process, as you can imagine. You've got to go through, child profiles, family profiles, and a lot of administrative requirements that you work with a case manager at Concern on, that kind of walks you through that whole process on how you begin looking for adoptions. If you're interested, we educate you what it's all about, what it truly means, and then we walk you through the process of eventually finalizing an adoption.
Yeah, I've done some adoptions for clients, and a lot of the time I've done step parent adoptions, but I've done those are much more straightforward. But when you're dealing with a third party adoption, there's a lot of reports. There's intermediary reports, and there's home studies that need to be done, and those are things that Concern is able to provide.
Yes, correct. Yep. And we work directly with the statewide adoption network. We follow their guidelines, procedures. We have licensing. So there's really a process that all the providers who do the service follow.
And when you're doing a home study, what sort of things are you looking at, or are you looking for?
Really the appropriateness of the family to adopt the child, all the safety things you can imagine. Is it really a good fit? Is this something that we think that they can do and provide a good home for this family? And that's what we really get in there and try to find out.
Okay. And do you also facilitate foster care in the county?
We do. We have approximately 150 youth in foster care right now. So
do you do that in conjunction with Children and Youth Services, or is it separate from what the court might do?
It's in conjunction with Children and Youth Services. So we contract directly with the counties to provide foster parents for any youth in need.
Okay. And what sort of training do you provide or require for foster parents?
We actually have a whole training program that we go through to have our foster parents take pre-service training, we call it, before they can even begin doing anything. There's hours of training that has to be done. One of the coolest things I did when I got here at Concern was I got to sit through that pre-service training, because obviously I need to learn about that and go through trainings and see what we're doing. So I actually got to sit through the pre-service training, and it's pretty amazing. I think the biggest takeaway for me is just the amazing people, the questions, and who we get to come out to be foster parents is pretty awesome. And the training is top notch as well.
Oh, I'm sure, and it definitely takes a special person to be a foster parent.
And the training I sat through was even, we part of our foster parent, we do medical foster care, so we have a high number of kids with medical needs, and we actually have families that come in wanting to take care of kids with really high medical needs, like a trach or other health issues that require nurses to come in. These are kids that probably without nurse help would be in some type of hospital facility, and those parents are truly amazing.
Absolutely. I once had an employee who was a foster parent, and she was just very selfless, and really devoted herself um, to that role.
Mhm.
And so it's incredible
It is.
watching what some people will do. Um, Now, do you have any difficulty recruiting foster parents?
Yes, it's extremely difficult. I mean, that's one of the things we're talking about all the time is how do we get more families involved? At the statewide adoption network now, there's probably close to 400 kids waiting to be adopted, which is pretty wild. And there's always kids in needs of home, trying to get kids out of residential facilities and into foster care as well, and really don't have a place to go. So we're constantly recruiting foster parents. Usually the best way we get them is word of mouth through our own foster parents, but we do ads, we reach out. We actually have recruiters trying to find foster parents and go through a process to get them approved. So constantly working on that.
Is there a particular type of person or parent that you're looking for that would be a good foster parent? Like if someone's listening to this and thinking I might be interested, but it's not me, what sort of person are you looking for?
Someone with a big heart and home to give a kid an opportunity. I mean, the one thing you don't realize is all the people that have been in foster care system. I was in foster care as a child, and it really does have an impact on people. And you don't see it every day, but you really talk to people, and there's a lot of people that you were like, oh, wow, they were in foster care. So it's not something everybody always talks about, but you'd be surprised at how many people have experienced foster care along the way.
How, how has being in foster care affected you as an adult?
Well, I was in as a baby, so I don't really remember. I found
Okay.
out it later on in life. My mom told me. I was like, "Wow, there's a shocker." But I think just the experience and my own personal experiences in the system and with various things, really set me on my career path at a young age. I didn't even think I knew it at the time, but it really did set me moving forward to where I am now.
So when we'll shift there for a moment. What is your background?
So I grew up with my grandparents. My grandpa and grandma legally adopted me. My mom had schizophrenia growing up, so she was in and out of my life. I never really knew my dad, but I really did have an amazing childhood. And thank goodness my grandparents adopted me, and my mom stayed in my life. She's still in my life today. She manages her schizophrenia very well. We deal with it as a family, work together. She's great with the kids. So it's a good example of how if you get support along the way, you become very successful.
Absolutely, and that's I think what Concern does is you provide that scaffolding or that support that
Mhm.
people need, because life can be complicated.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, from an educational perspective, what is your background?
I have a bachelor's in social work and minor in psych from Shippensburg University, and I have a master's degree in social work from Columbia University.
New York City.
Yes, New York City. I love the city. So
How did you like living in the city during when you were getting your master's?
I loved it. So it was great. One of the cool things I always say about Columbia was in undergrad, I got to go to Columbia, and then I had teachers that were the ones that were writing the books. So it was really interesting. And I also had very diverse classrooms where I learned a lot, people from different countries, the diversity. It was pretty amazing to live in the city, and just the energy. I loved it. Great education, great experience. So pretty fortunate.
And what brought you to Concern?
Really their mission, the foster care and adoption. So it was really a career move about 7 years ago. I was a vice president of another larger agency working nationally, doing very similar things, but we didn't have adoption and foster care. So when I looked at Concern and I saw the adoption and foster care, I was like, I knew right away that I was going to get this job. I read it, you read something, you're like, I got this. So I knew right away, and everything I could to get that job. So.
And are you originally from the Berks County area, or did you?
I'm not. I'm actually from the Mechanicsburg area. Obviously our office is in Fleetwood, Pennsylvania, our corporate office. So I commute, work from home, and then go to our other offices as well. So we have about 15 office physical locations now.
Oh wow! I don't know that I realized that there were that many offices. What parts of the state do you cover?
So we go the whole way up to Mansfield, Wellsboro area, some offices up that way. Lewisburg, and then Fleetwood. Then we got Wyomissing, so that's that Reading area near you. Then we go down into Coatesville residential, and then we go the whole way down into Lanham, Maryland, where we have a trauma-focused foster care programs where we have about 40 youth in foster care there.
Yeah. So you piqued my interest there with a trauma-focused foster care unit. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so that's just a higher level of training and support for youth with mental health needs in foster care, right? So a lot of trauma, kids that have experienced, like we all know, some things that have not been really great in their childhood. So really it's providing those families the support, the education, the training to work with those kids.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I know, generally you also provide mental health services is it just for kids or is it for adults also?
It's for adults as well. So we have a huge mental health outpatient program through the state where we service actually over 5,000 people a year, which is pretty wild. So we have a great program, great therapists, doctors. So we do a lot there.
Yeah. And I know that you guys, I think, have some services that you provide to parents who are going through divorce. What are those services?
I think those services generally are outpatient therapy services. So if a family needs a therapist or a son or daughter needs a therapist, we provide that services that way. I don't think we necessarily have, specific services for people going through a divorce, but usually those families come in to get therapy or some sort of help. And obviously if they would be with a case manager, caseworker in foster care, if that was something that was happening.
Yeah. So how did Concern get started?
1978, we're actually celebrating our 45th year this year, which is pretty exciting. So we're having an event November 10th, the 45th in Reading. So we're really excited about that. The planning's underway. So 1978, we had our two founders who are currently director emeritus on the board, Nancy Weichert and Glenn Hilligus, founded the agency in Fleetwood, Pennsylvania. And at the time, there really weren't foster parents being paid. And Nancy's told me multiple times when I got here, how we named Concern is people were sitting around trying to figure out what we were going to call this. And we wanted to pay parents to watch kids, this new idea. And if parents are going to do this, why not pay them? Right. So they're giving their home, try to get them some resources. And everybody was so concerned for the kids, they just called the agency Concern. So it's like, oh, we're concerned for this, we're concerned for that. So that was how the name came about, is all the concern for kids that are in foster care and the kids that needed a home.
Wow. So it grew from, two people having just some concern for kids.
Well, I don't think it was just those were the two founders, but there was a
Yeah.
whole group of employees and people that worked there, and those were the founders. So I give it all them the credit, but there was a lot of people that started the initial thing, and they were instrumental for sure.
All right. Now, is there something that you think more people should be aware of about what you do that they wouldn't necessarily be aware of?
I think, and I kind of said it before, I think the number of kids in need and the number of kids, in the country, there's over 400,000 kids in foster care, right? There's at the Swan, there's 380 kids up for adoption. So I don't think people realize the need in how many kids are either homeless or in a residential or trying to find a home. It's pretty sad when you look at it, and I see it all the time. And that's one of the things we talk about when we're trying to recruit foster parents is we have these referrals and we don't have a place to put the kids. And that's pretty sad.
And when you don't have a place to put them, they stay in residential facilities?
Some of them stay in residential facilities, probably longer than they should. That's just just something that happens. Try not to have it happen, but it does. It definitely happens. Or they stay in foster parents as long as somebody can have them. It's short term. And then you always hear about kids jumping from foster home to foster home, which we try to avoid, but it does happen.
Okay. And so let's say someone wants to be a foster parent. Can you walk us through what the process is to become a foster parent?
I think first thing is reaching out to get the information and really researching, is this what you want to do, right? So really it's reaching out, and you can go to our website. There's a contact, you sign up and reach out, get the information, you'll get somebody and they'll kind of walk you through the process. there.
Okay. And then like you mentioned before, there's training and,
Pre-service training, education, child profiles, family profiles, team meetings. So it's a pretty long process.
for good reason, because you want to
Yeah.
make sure that you got the right people doing it. So here's the $1 million question. Why do you do what you do?
I think I've always meant to do this. I love it. I'm one of the few people. I'm so fortunate to do a job where I actually mean so much as we grow and develop new programs. I always said so. I was a clinician at heart. I did all clinical. I got pulled on the admin side. And the one thing I look at is the more programs we open up, the more people we hire, the more services we deliver, the more we develop, the more services we're providing to kids and families. So I try to have an impact that way. Always looking to grow. What are the programs that are out there, services we can provide? So I love doing that. It's, like I said, I'm so fortunate to be in a position to do something I love and give back and to work with the people. I mean, I was a therapist. I see how hard our employees work and what they give of themselves to our clients and their job. And I don't think people really understand that either, especially with COVID and the mental health crisis that's going on. I mean, people are really in need. We don't have enough therapists. We don't have enough workers. There's definitely a crisis there. We're always trying to hire. And I love being able to support and try to help those individuals, those people do their job as best they can.
Wonderful. Well, it's very inspiring to hear all the great work that's happening at Concern, and that you guys are doing. If we have any listeners who want to help out, maybe they're not ready to become a foster parent, but what are some other ways they can help out to support your mission?
We actually have fundraisers all the time. So if you're in Fleetwood, we do bingo. June 3rd coming up, we have a Highmark walk. You can go to the website, you can donate. So we're constantly raising funds that go directly back to the kids and families we serve. So we have different funds so if a kid in foster care wants to go to a summer camp or needs something, we actually purchase that. We get it for the family. We get them into the camps that they need to be in. And that money directly comes from people that donate to Concern. So you can help that way as well.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate the time here talking about to talk about Concern. I'll give you the last word if there's anything else you want to make sure our listeners know about Concern or.
Please reach out, get the information about becoming a foster parent. And also, if you need help or services, reach out to Concern. We get emails all the time from people who really just want help or need help. So if you go to the website, you can email us, and we'll get that information to the right person to reach out to you to try to get you connected with the services you need. So we're always open. And
what is the website or the phone number?
It's www.concern4kids.org.
Wonderful. Well, thank you again, Gordon. I appreciate you being here on our show today.
Thank you very much.